Chapter 2, Drawing and Templates, Joe Cerrone, Basic AutoCAD. Today I'm going to go through the Chapter 2 highlights. In Chapter 2, the learning objectives cover starting a new drawing, saving files, closing files, basically file management and utilities. Being able to work with things like drawing limits and template files would be considered utilities within the CAD system. So when you start a new drawing, you can use a template file, and a template file is basically a file that somebody has created with a title block, layers, and things like that. So if you say Q new or quick new, it will go into a macro that will allow you to choose a template. And so if I'm here in my AutoCAD and I want to start that, I can say Q NEW, quick new, and then it goes into the template folder and it'll pull one of the pre-configured title blocks. And so M is metric, I is imperial or inch mode as you pull these up. And so the default would be this one called ACAD, and that would be a basic two-dimensional drawing template. And if you open that, what you'll find is there really isn't anything in it. And so as you look at it, if I go up here and I turn on my menu bar, actually my menu bar is on, but if I look at things like layers and line types, I have just one layer, layer 0, which is the default. It's named drawing2.dwg, and that's what it does. When it starts a drawing from a template, it allows you to name the file. And so that's the beauty of it. If you do choose to start another new drawing with file new, and you choose one of the title blocks, and so for example if we want to take a manufacturing metric title block, you'll see that they have predefined a title block or with a viewport. If I click on this and I go to quick properties with the right mouse button, it'll tell me what it is. It's a viewport. So title blocks and templates are very important because they allow you to standardize your drawings. And so as we start to run the course, what we're going to do is we're going to use these templates or title blocks for the course for CAD 116. And so we have basically an architectural title block and we have a mechanical title block. And so if we look in the D2L component, so title blocks are located in D2L under Contents, Title Blocks. And so here's our title blocks for CAD 116. And for example, we've put both the drawing and the DWT file. So if you're going to be working on, let's say, the architectural drawing, you can come over here and click on this and download it and then open it. And this will be the architectural title block that we'll use for the course. And that's the same for the mechanical title block and the plate title block. And so those are located in the D2L. So that's about templates. Remember, template files are essentially set up for being able to manage your CAD files. They have the layers set up like dimensioning layers, object line layers, hidden line layers, and they also have the standards set up for dimensioning. As far as saving your work, most of your companies will have a file storage naming system. We'll do something like that as well. We'll have students use their initials, dash, and then the lab number. QSave or quick save is a command that will save your drawing. So if you just hit the save icon or type QSave, it'll save your file. When you do save your file, what you do want to be careful with is whether somebody has, I'm going to use a save as here, the latest version of CAD. And so if you do a save as and you're working with the 2020, it saves it down to 2018. But if somebody comes in with a, or if you're bringing a newer file to an older software, then you need to file it or save it to an earlier version, like 2013. So there's your save as, and you can also save as other different types of file types. And so you can save as DXF, drawing exchange format, and then you can bring it into programs like Mastercam or SolidWorks. Automatic file saves will allow you to automatically set up and save your files. That's in Chapter 1. It's pretty quick. If you go back to your AutoCAD here, and I right-click, and I go to Options, and File Save Locations, you want to have that and how often you're going to be saving the file. Drawing Recovery Manager is basically a manager for files that don't open properly. My experience with it is that there really isn't much you can do when the files are corrupt. You can run the Recovery Manager and usually you can get back most of your work, but sometimes they're just damaged, and so it's a good idea to have more than one file backed up. Closing files, just the same, how to close a file. That's pretty standard. Opening a file, file open. And you can open up multiple files, and so if I'm here in AutoCAD and I want to open a file, file open, and then you can select which files you want to open. Finding files. The find command is a little different than I found in the book. What I found was when I ran the find command here in the CAD system, if I say find, it goes into finding just about anything within the AutoCAD. And so what they're saying is, what are you looking for, like finding text and replacing it, versus when you open a file, you can also go through and you can use these tools to find the files. And so if you're using a standard filing, let's say by date, maybe you want to search for certain programs or certain files that were done in June or July. Recent documents, you can get your recent documents by hitting on the big red A, and it'll show you your drawing history. You can pin drawings and you can do all kinds of Microsoft Windows tricks. Opening read-only files. Very oftentimes facilities managers will have read-only files of the facilities because they don't want people to move doors and windows and things like that. And so you can open the files, but you won't be able to save them with the same name. And so it'll tell you, open the read-only file. And sure, you can do that. You just can't save it back, and that's there to maintain the integrity of the drawings. You can open multiple drawings, and you can use these different tabs to manage through them. And so you can see I have multiple drawings open here, and I just toggle through them by hovering and then clicking on them. And then again, you have a lot of the windows that coach mounts with different tabs that you can go through and select a tab within the window. So while you're in AutoCAD, then to switch, you can go into some of these tabs, and it looks like mine are not active at this point. Drawing properties, you can take a look at the drawing properties and identification of that. And so you can take a look at your general properties and you can save those things so that you can find your files. And so very often people will save properties of, where that project was or who it was for, and that way you can search the database for maybe a drawing done by ITW or a drawing done by another manufacturer. Model space and paper space are very important as you work on these. What they basically mean is model space was the original drawing space, and basically it's an infinite drafting board. And paper space is basically an output method. So whenever you have drawings, eventually we wind up putting them on paper, and then you'll have a roll of paper. And so paper space is geared towards the size of the paper. And so as we look at things like the title block, okay, this is a paper space. You'll notice that it has this icon. That's the paper space icon. It looks like a right triangle. And for the paper space drawings, we'll do plates. And so for these drawings, we can just come in here and just work on the grid to draw our objects. They don't have a viewport like the other drawings do. And so, for example, if I go to a mech drawing, model space is right here, and if I draw something in model space, then it'll be reflected in the viewport. If I double click here and do a zoom all. And so the idea is that you draw everything in model space, and then you can frame what the drawings are in paper space. And this works really well, especially as you go into architectural drawings, because then you can have these multi-sheet layouts where I can have page 1 and then I can have another page and another page in paper space. And so you can have a page with the overall view of the drawing, then you can have a lighting plan, and then you can have a floor plan and a furniture plan. So as we start to work with the drawings, there's paper space buttons and model space. If you click on this button, it says model. It'll toggle over to paper and vice versa. And so as we work on these drawings, so for example, this mechanical drawing, okay, this is the paper space, and then if I click on this paper button, now I'm in what's called floating model space. And so this is actually the model. A lot of what we'll do is we'll teach people how to use just this tab over here, because then you get the entire object and then the viewport doesn't change the scale. But either way, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, they both work. Units, as we work through, most of your title blocks will have specific units, and so the mechanical title blocks will be decimal, and the architectural title blocks will be feet and inches. And so if I look at the architectural title block and I type in units, you'll see that the measurement is architectural, which will be in feet and inches, versus the mechanical one, which will say decimal. Drawing limits, it's kind of an older concept. It basically allows us to put the grid units, and so if you look at some of these title blocks here, the limits are defining this drawing grid. And so it's kind of an old school setting. A lot of them will still have you do that. It does give you a sense of scale, and so if you can set up your grid and units, set up like each grid unit is 12 inches, then you can count grid squares and get an idea of the perspective. And just more settings for the units and limits that you can take this into. There's some good reference material. They have some good drawing templates on the website for the students, and so you can go and take a look at that. In the students.auto, it's actually, if you click on Let's see if it lets me in. There we go. And these are in chapter 1 as well. But we can go into these templates and how to set them up. You can also go into downloading their templates, and they have some nice templates used for mechanical and architectural drawings. Okay, so that gets me to the end of the chapter in the chapter review. And so this was our quick review of chapter 2.